Hi, and welcome to the Days Gone podcast. I'm Claire Weaver, a screenwriter, author, and Days Gone fan, and this podcast is a place to discuss the game in all its glory, share my opinions, both popular and unpopular, and listen to me fangirl over one of the best games ever made. There will be spoilers ahead, so continue at your own risk. Welcome to the Freak Show. In this week's news, I kinda leveled up this week. I've been low-key dabbling in livestream for a couple months now, and one thing's led to another, and I've started a Days Gone collaboration livestream playthrough with an incredibly talented gamer you're all familiar with, Spornicus Rex. The way it works is he takes the reins on the gaming front because, as we all know, he's amazingly good at what he does, and I get to do what I do best and talk about the story points, character, the details of the world, basically all the good stuff I go into on this podcast. We've been having a blast, and one of the great things about our dynamic is we have a very different playstyle, so I get to push him to try new tactics and maybe teach the Grandmaster a thing or two. I also like to give him a hard time when he dies, and there's a lot of audience participation via the chat where viewers can weigh in on decisions about tactics and strategy. I'll share the details about how and when to tune in at the end of the episode, but right now I want to get into today's topic. It's something I've discussed a few times before, but there's always more to say. Why we love Days Gone. And I have a wonderful guest joining me for the discussion. I'm very pleased to welcome Daniel Belmont onto the show. Daniel is the host of Video Games and Coffee, a podcast about video games, their challenges, and the stories we love. Hi, Daniel. Welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
Hello, Claire, and hello to the Days Gone pod audience. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thanks for being here. So we met on Instagram when the evil AI algorithm saw that we're both podcasters and game nerds and decided that we probably know each other, or if we don't, we absolutely should. And as we know, the algorithm is all-knowing, all-seeing, and all-wise, because not only do we connect over a love of gaming and a masochistic desire to punish our inner introverts by doing podcasts, but we also share a very deep love of one specific game, namely Days Gone.
Absolutely. You're one of the few times the algorithm actually suggested somebody that's correct. So I'm glad. I think I reached out to you, didn't I? I think I said, good going for doing a whole podcast dedicated to one game, especially a game that I absolutely love.
Yeah. And I obviously connect with a lot of podcasters on Instagram. It's how I met Anthony from the Weird Crew podcast, who was my first ever guest on the show. I love that Instagram kind of recommends people, but yeah, you do sometimes get those a little bit awkward recommendations where people are a little bit just into self-promotion, but you actually seemed really genuine. We instantly kind of connected, I think, because it was like, oh, here's a guy who's actually genuinely in love with video games and just loves talking about them, and that's obviously what I love doing with this podcast. So I think the algorithm, like you say, kind of was right.
It was correct this time. Yeah. No, you're right. Very, very genuine. Hey, I'm a 37-year-old dad and a husband, and I just hang out in my basement. I just want to talk to other people about the video games that I totally just really, really enjoy. I think, hey, almost 40 years old, it's time for me to start talking about it to other people than just my wife, who really tunes out.
You're nearly 40. It's time to start talking about video games.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So podcasting is kind of a strange hobby to inflict upon oneself. Why did you decide to start a podcast about video games? Was it just to talk about them?
I like talking about how games, make me feel. My show is more like a kind of like a verbal unboxing, kind of a verbal demo. I'll talk about a game from the first boot up and go into, a new game file and tell the audience really what happens and what to expect up until the point where the tutorial or the opening cinematic is kind of over. I like to talk about how, what my experience was and what anybody else should expect who hasn't played the game already. So I don't really do a review because it's not like a show where I cover the entirety of the game, but because I don't want to do spoilers. I guess I spoil the first 10, 20 minutes, but I mean, that's a demo of anything, right?
Yes. Yeah, that doesn't count as a spoiler.
No, I don't cover like bugs or performance because, I mean, let's face it, all that's going to get patched up anyway. As fun as it was to talk about Cyberpunk and the and the horrific bugs that came in, the hilarious bugs that came out with that. I mean, that doesn't stand the test of time because eventually they're going to fix it and all that. But or so we hope, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I like to, yeah, I'll poke fun at a game, even if I love it. I'll poke a little fun at it. But ultimately, I just like to talk about how it made me feel, because games has always, they've always been a form of kind of escapism, right? Some people enjoy movies, reading, hiking or whatever. I just like to get engrossed in a game. I have done so for, geez, my first game system was an Atari 7800 in the 80s. So I'm an old school gamer, and yeah,
Right
always
on. That's
loved it.
cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, I always think of your podcast as being kind of like an overview, like an introduction to a game, not so much a review,
an introduction.
but like, yeah, it's like, here's this really cool game, here's the setup, here's the first 20 minutes, here's why you should play it.
Yeah, exactly. I like to show the game the love, and the developers themselves the love that they deserve, because we're the ones enjoying it. I can't make a video game, so
yeah, right. If only.
I know, right?
You do one game per episode, right?
I do. Yeah.
What games have you done, and what have you have coming up?
I've done Dying Light, Mirror's Edge, Catalyst, Days Gone, of course, Draugen, Hellblade, and my latest one was Quantum Break. So very story heavy games. I haven't really done any kind of Sudoku kind of like just for a little bit and then I'm done with it kind of games, but I start out with my favorite games, which are these. It was suggested to me that maybe I should change it up a bit and talk about a game I don't enjoy as much, but that would be harder for me because my podcast isn't about putting a game down or bashing it, really. I enjoy praising all those involved in the game's creation. So even though I do poke fun at it, I really enjoy the game, and even if it's not for me, it's it's for somebody else.
Yeah.
So
I think that's really cool. It's really good to have like a positive attitude. I, as you know, moderate the Days Gone subreddit, and mostly it's a really good community where everyone comes together and like, oh, I love this character, I love this thing, or I'm kind of confused about this, and people will help them out. And then every once in a while, we get like a Debbie Downer.
Oh,
it's
I
just
know.
like, oh, this game sucks.
I
or
know. You were there for mine.
This character makes no sense. Oh yeah, you joined
you were there
the
for mine. They're brutal on there.
There's always, it's like 98% really good people and then 2% assholes.
Totally. Yeah. That's something I've noticed with the Days Gone podcast, which is why I'm like so hesitant on joining another subreddit, because I've been kind of spoiled with you guys on there. Somebody will, chime in with something, and then 10, 15, 20 people follow us saying, yeah, that was awesome, or try this, or, I agree. But yeah, then you'll get one of those trolls that come by and kind of
try to ruin everyone's day.
Lord. But what's nice is that when that happened to me, boy, the Days Gone subreddit, man, they came in to my rescue, and there was a few guys in there that really just like
have your back.
Yeah, it was funny the way they poked fun at that guy.
Yeah, I don't even remember what was it specifically that set the troll off. What were they trolling
So it didn't really make much sense to me, because I clicked on his name, and then you can see all the comments that he put, and you could tell he just hopped from one topic to another, just writing some stupid comment. And I believe my post said something like, what is it, like the after effects of playing Days Gone, and it's all Ben Studio's fault. And I said how what did I say? Oh yeah, when I talk to people about riding my motorcycle, I'll say the broken road instead of the open road. And I'm like, damn it. And people look at me like, what are you talking about? What does that even mean?
Broken road? What is that?
Yeah. So this troll just comes on and says, because I'm on there as Video Games and Coffee, right? So my name and I think it's just like, you should be called Video Games and something really stupid, really like, just like, it wasn't even a good burn. If you're gonna burn, at least make it a good one, right?
Yeah, you can get respect if you're smart with your burns. Like at least you get a little bit of kudos for being clever. But yeah, this guy was just being a complete dick.
Oh man, and then
dick.
and then somebody got my back like minutes later. He's like, you're a fucking idiot. Like it was awesome. So
and then I get all the mod reports coming in, and I'm like, oh shit, what's happening? I have to weigh everything, because I'm always really careful as a moderator to not censor people. Like if someone comes on and says, I don't like the game, or, I don't think that this element was done well or whatever, I'm like, okay, well, that's their opinion. Everyone is entitled to their opinion. And
Right.
also, this is the internet. Like, we've got to have thick skin. But when people come on and they're just like, oh, your name should be blah or whatever, and just like throw in insults.
Mm-hmm.
No, you're gone. I'll
Oh
fucking
no,
ban you for that.
his was as bad as like an old school, your mom joke kind of deal. It was like, man, just get out of here. He really seemed like just a child,
Oh,
just
trying to
wanted
be
to
a tough
cause.
guy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But no, the whole community has been excellent, and I enjoy reading whenever somebody posts after they finish Days Gone, how it made them feel or their favorite parts, or I even like seeing people ask like, hey, how do I get past this horde or something, and then everybody just chimes in like, hey, try this, try that. So I really, really, really good group of people.
Definitely. Definitely a good group of people. So, okay, now we're on the topic of Days Gone.
Oh
Let's get
yeah.
into it. Okay, I discovered the game. I want to ask you about how you discovered the game, but I discovered the game purely by chance earlier this year. I still can't believe it's only been, what, like 8 months since I first picked up the game. Maybe 7 months. I've lost track. I've lost track of time. Everything is just Days Gone at this point. But I picked it up not because I'd heard of it or because I knew of the it was free on PS Plus for a while. I didn't know about that. I know on PS Plus. It was being ported to PC. I don't play
Hmm.
games on PC, so I didn't know about that. It was completely off my radar. It literally came up as an Amazon recommendation. The Amazon
Amazon, really?
algorithm was like, "Hey, you might like this." And I'm like, okay, let's check it out. And I pulled up the cover, and it's Deacon sitting against the bike with his gun in his hand, and the
With the
zombies
horde in
behind
the
him.
background,
And I
yeah.
was like, oh fuck, yes, I am there for this. This looks exactly like my kind of game. It looked cheesy as fuck,
Hmm.
but I love zombie games, and I like me a bad boy, a bad biker boy. And I was like, okay, this could work. This could be fun. He looks kind of cool, and the world looks kind of cool, and all these zombies. It's, one of my favorite genres of horror or subgenres of horror is zombie movies and zombie stories. So I bought the game. It's $20, and I just finished, or I just actually given up on Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which I love the Assassin's Creed games. They are some of my favorite games. It's one of my favorite franchises. But man, Odyssey pissed me off. It just was way too long, and I realized that I just wasn't enjoying it, and I didn't care about it. And I was just so overwhelmed by all of the story threads, and I honestly probably wasn't very good at it. Maybe if I was a little better at fighting, I might have enjoyed it more or got through it quicker, but it was just taking forever. I was just kind of bored of it. So I was like, I need to put this game down. Let me pick up this Days Gone, whatever, I'll play it for like 10, 15 hours maybe. Maybe it might be good and I'll get 20 hours out of it. And it'll be a nice little filler before I get into my next obsession, which was going to be Horizon Zero Dawn, which I've had sitting on my shelf for years at this point and have never played. And I knew that I wanted to get into that. So I was like, well, let me just, have a little zombie killing fun. And then, this game probably sucks because it looks really cheesy, but
Hmm.
it's going to satisfy a certain few things, like namely driving the motorbike and shooting zombies. And then I'll just go on to Horizon Zero Dawn. That sounds like a good plan. So the game comes, I pop it in. Within 10 minutes, I'm already like, oh shit, this is good. Oh shit, this is really fun. And then, I mean, the rest is history. Here we are. Started a podcast about it, moderating the subreddit. I play it every day still. I played it 3 times through now, and plus a ton of like additional, just doing the challenges and just like messing about killing the hordes and like post credits, just sticking around in the world, just hours and hours and hours, like literally hundreds of hours in this world. And I still don't want to play anything else. It's still my obsession. What was your how did you find the game? What was your introduction to it?
Well, first, you should definitely play Horizon Zero Dawn because it's excellent. It's a beautiful game. But you're right. So I found out about Days Gone. It was by chance, but they were promoting it. And nobody told me about it. I wasn't searching for another game, of that genre. And then it was I think it was online, and it just, it says, "Hey, it's an upcoming open world zombie-like survival game." And at that point, I knew I liked the theme and the genre because I think The Last of Us is a beautiful game. I like Dying Light, which is an open world zombie game. So I like, The Last of Us is a great story. Dying Light has great mechanics and things like that. And this is kind of a combination of both. And it's like, shit, now we're including a motorcycle. Like I'm in. So the
Heck yeah,
trailer and all
why
the
not?
exactly, because you don't see that, and the trailer and all the promotional clips hooked me enough that I bought it when it was first released.
So
So
this was
I've
back in 2019.
yeah, so I've been playing it since pretty much day one, and I still play it. In fact, I just I had it on earlier. My son, I have my PlayStation. My son's just like, play motorcycle. That's what he calls the game. He's just play
Aw.
motorcycle. So yeah.
My kiddo's obsessed with the motorbike too. Whenever I get off the bike to go kill the freakers, he gets scared. He's 2, so I
Yeah.
always like turn off the TV or whatever, don't play in front of him because he doesn't like those bits. But if he walks in and I'm playing it and he sees me driving the bike, he'll just come and stand in front of the TV or sit next to me, and just like if I stop, he gets really mad and just like
Oh,
wants me to
really?
keep driving the bike. He loves it.
See, my son loves destruction, so he wants me to crash it because Deacon, I mean, let's face it, he looks like a crash dummy
He's like a little rag doll.
right, he just arms and legs go everywhere, and he thinks it's hilarious.
Yeah.
But no, that's how I got into it. It was a complete chance. But when I saw the trailers, I was like, man, I'm in because I'm a big open world guy with a strong story. And
So did you have any expectation of its level of quality versus cheesiness? Where did you think it fell on that?
I didn't think it was cheesy. I mean, because Sam Witwer, he narrated, I believe, one of the trailers. He
Oh,
kind of
so you're
explains
going
like,
off the actual like footage of the game and narration. I was
yeah,
literally
yeah.
just judging the book by its cover.
Where he talks about like like this is the drifter bike and this kind of deal. I think there were different trailers explaining different aspects of the game, and Sam was narrating them, so that was enough to hook me in. So if I thought a game was cheesy, I definitely wouldn't have paid the $60
Right.
initial release thing. So I put in my $60, and it was fantastic. I could not put it down. And I do want to just a shout out to Ben Studio because there were bugs in it. In the very the first couple of weeks there were bugs, but they released patches almost like every other day, every 2-3 days or something like that. So they were on it, listening to what everybody was going through. I didn't experience any crashes. I just experienced like little quirks, funny little things like you stop
Mhm.
the motorcycle and the wheel just keeps spinning.
I
That
mean,
that kind of
that I don't understand why that bothered everyone so much. I mean, unless it's like actually stopping you from playing the game, but I expect a certain amount of bugginess in video
right.
games. I mean, there's always something. I come from the days of the PlayStation 1. That was kind of my jam. One of my favorite games of all time is Tomb Raider, the original 1996 release, OG Tomb Raider. And
Oh
there
yeah.
was actually a secret that you could get that you could only get when you manipulated a bug to help you jump where you shouldn't be able to jump. So for me, like all of the gameplay bugs sometimes are kind of fun elements to play with because they might actually lead to some sort of reward or maybe something funny or something kind of glitches and it's kind of amusing or hilarious.
Yeah.
Like you're saying about like Deacon being a kind of a rag doll when he crashes the bike, like stupid shit like that. That's like I don't understand why everyone was so against the game and the reviews that it got obviously were the reviewers were playing it before it was patched.
Hmm.
And I know I didn't see it, so I'm guessing it was probably worse than I'm imagining, but I don't know, that stuff doesn't bother me.
No, I didn't experience any crashes, nothing. But Ben Studio kept releasing update after update, and so they were on it. So aside from that, those little quirky little details, nothing affected the gameplay or the enjoyment that I had from it at all. And I didn't know what to expect because they did Siphon Filter, right? I believe Ben
Right.
Studio Siphon Filter. I
Yeah.
never played the Siphon Filter games, so I never had if Naughty Dog comes out with a new game, I'm all in, right?
Yeah,
Uncharted, Last
yeah.
of Us. I mean, it's just God,
Fuck yeah.
masterpieces, master storytellers. But Ben Studio, I didn't really expect much. Not saying not in a bad way. I just didn't know what to expect from Ben
I'd never
Studio.
heard of them before. I'd heard of Siphon Filter, but that was back when there were, what was it, 986 studios or something like that. They had some, it was like numbers. But fun fact, did you know that Days Gone is actually a sequel to Siphon Filter, kind of a spiritual sequel, but
I
it
read
actually is.
that, and I
It's in the
read
same
that.
universe.
And from what I know about Siphon Filter, which just to me, I think of Siphon Filter, I think of like kind of, I don't know, I may be totally wrong, but like, I don't know, secret agent sneaking around kind
Yeah,
of
it's kind of
shit.
like espionage-y sort of
Yes.
stuff.
How Days Gone is connected to that, I have no idea. But
Nero. Think about
oh
Nero.
shit, yeah, you're absolutely
Yeah.
right. That's an interesting. See, that's why you have the Days Gone podcast. That's why you
Yeah.
host it, because you think of shit like this. I love it.
Yep. So how many times do you think you've played Days Gone? How many hours have you
Um,
clocked?
I don't go on hours so much. I go based on how many times, because I love the story. So I usually go through a game over and over again because the story is really good.
Right.
So I want to say minimum 5, minimum 5,
Nice.
easy. Because I just think I think it's good. What I think it's excellent. What I love about Days Gone is it always keeps you guessing about what the game is actually about. What is the plot? What is the goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you start the game and it's complete chaos, right? It kind of reminds me of The Last of Us after they crash their car in the town, and they gotta, and Joel's carrying Sarah, right? So everybody's run to the town, the runners and shit, the infected are all everywhere. It kind of reminded me of that. And then but with really big guns, because he puts his hand cannon right in O'Brien's face. But so it started off strong, and so you kind of get an idea of, okay, there's some shit really going down, and then boom, 2 years later, you have just Deacon and you have Boozer, and Sarah's not around, so she's presumed dead. They talk about going north, right? After they chase Leon down and everything, talk about going north. Okay, so you think, okay, that's the goal, right? Let's go north. Let's leave this shithole that we're in or whatever. Let's go north. That's the end of the game, is north, right?
Yeah.
But no, soon after that, Boozer gets he gets hurt. So maybe now the point is, okay, we got to take care of Boozer. We got to get our gear and then head north. Maybe, I don't know. But then, boom, Sarah comes into play, right? Is Sarah alive? Okay, that's definitely the plot. That's definitely the goal now. I mean, they changed it up on me a few times, but that's definitely it. But then you find Sarah halfway through the game, and you're like, fuck, I hope it's not the end of the game, because that was really short, right? So no, you have another half of the game. So is it finding Sarah then going north? No, it's about Deacon kind of getting over shit from the past, his PTSD, his guilt about Boozer, his guilt about Sarah, getting Sarah out of there, and ultimately doing the right thing, being less selfish, right? And doing the right thing and kind of taking care of everybody, because everybody's in that shit together, right? So he decided to not head north. He's to stay with everyone. So it kept switching up on you. And I like that, because it didn't get stale at any point. So many different events happened throughout the storyline.
Yeah, and like when you get to Lost Lake, the tone of it shifts so much that originally, like you say, when you're going north with Boozer, it's you and Boozman, brothers in arms, it's just you against the world. Fuck the world. The world is burning. Fuck it. Peace out. And then you get to Lost Lake, and it's like Iron Mike has this whole idealist viewpoint of like, we can rebuild civilization. We can get to a civilized place again. And it's like, oh, okay, that's what we're doing. Oh, so it's teaching Deacon and Boozer to come back into society and to play a part in rebuilding society. But then it's not really about that, because then you fuck off and go and find the militia. You're right. And I think one of the interesting things is it gives you so much and so many cool, like interesting and individual perspectives from the characters and from about the world, that it's kind of open to interpretation. It's open to interpretation as to what the theme is, what the driving force is, what the main goal is, apart from obviously just find Sarah. That's one of the things I love doing with the podcast, is getting into the heads of all of these characters, because there is just so much to unpack. It's crazy. Yeah. It's just it's superb storytelling. And I think, if it was a movie or a TV show or something like that, or a shorter game, I don't know if you could do all of that stuff. The sheer length of the game is what gives it the ability to kind of hit all these different points and give you so much to connect with. And that's the thing, is everyone connects to it differently. Everyone has a connection to the game, and it's different for everyone.
Yeah, because when we got to Lost Lake, then you have Deacon, who's more like a fuck the world kind of guy, and you have Iron Mike trying to talk sense into you. Now there's other people there and good people, because I mean, let's face it, Tucker's camp is depressing.
Oh my God.
Copeland's camp is like he's like Dale Gribble, okay, from
Wait, who's that?
King of the Hill. All right, he's the
Oh,
conspiracy
yes.
theorist kind of,
Yeah.
He's like Copeland's camp is like run by Dale Gribble, right? The government's all crazy and shit and all this stuff. But when you get to Lost Lake, it's like the first sense of just they're with it. They haven't gone crazy. They haven't gone nuts. I mean, Tucker's basically running a slave
Yeah.
camp. And like, who's gonna stop her, right? I mean, the
Yeah, I
police.
mean, why
No.
not?
Right. So then, but then events happen. The biggest events happen at Lost Lake. Boozer loses his arm. Then you're
Mhm.
like, oh shit, how are we going to get north now? He can't ride his bike. And I know that every tow truck in the game has gas in the back. So we can just hop in a tow truck and head, since you can't ride a bike. So like, what's going on now? And it's just so many. And then you have like the Lisa storyline. And then that's what I like too, is all the little submissions add to the story. Right.
Mhm.
So you have to go find Lisa, take care of her. And then she's included, boom, back in the story at the end when she shows up at Lost Lake. So it's really everywhere. So it's not a linear kind of deal. So for example, like The Last of Us, right? You know what you got to do. You got to get Ellie to the Fireflies. Boom. That's it. Days Gone. I mean, it switches every 3-4 hours. Something will happen event wise. Then you're like, oh, God, what's going on now?
Yeah.
And all the other areas unlock in the map, and like you Colonel Garrett, and then you meet Corey. It's like, shit, man, I'll just keep going and see where this crazy train ends.
I know. I remember I went online to look something up while I was playing, and I was like very cognizant of avoiding spoilers. I did not want it spoiled. I knew that we were going to find Sarah like at some point, because I mean, it's kind of where the story's leading you. So I knew it was going to happen, but I didn't know. No, it's not guaranteed. You might find that she's dead. But you kind of have a feeling that she's probably going to show up somewhere. And I saw an image of Wizard Island and what looked like, Deacon standing at the scenic overlook, kind of looking down at it. And I was like, wait, where the fuck is that? And I just realized, like, hang on, I'm at Lost Lake. I've already opened up what I thought was the second half of the map. Is there a third half or third part of the map? Yeah. And I'm just like, what? This looks crazy. This can't be real. And then of course you get there and first of all, I was like, wow, this place is whack. Like this island in the middle of the lake, and it's like a little cone, like a little mountain and everything, and I'm just like, this looks completely bonkers, and the way they've built the fort around it. And then what blew my mind was when I found out there's a real fucking place in Oregon, and that the whole game is real. Like, you can go to these places. They move some stuff around, but they're there.
I mean, why not, right? Ben Studios in Oregon, you might as well use the surrounding scenery to make it very realistic. And my God, how realistic is it? I mean, it's unbelievable, all the detail. I like to open world games. I like to just I like to drive around or walk around or run around, whatever, and I really admire all the little details that went into it, because you find some way far off point in the map and you're like, Mike, look how realistic this looks. Somebody paid attention to this point at some time when they developed the game, and I really admire that, because it's not something that's just been slapped together. So right. I mean it is a masterpiece. And then every area that opens up is there's its own storyline. So the missions only are pertain to that area. So you're not like at Wizard Island, you got to go up all the way, north to Lost Lake to do something. So you're right. The more areas that open up, I'm like, how fucking big is this game?
Yeah. And I've actually heard that there are a couple regions that were kind of built or alluded to that got cut. And one of them, you mentioned the intro. Someone actually found a hack for the game, or like a glitch, or something that they could manipulate that allowed them to get into Farewell, the original town from the opening of the game. They'd actually built it as a playable area, and it's still coded into the game, but it's not part of the game.
Oh,
The thinking being that maybe it was
oh,
going to be that opening scene was going to be like the opening of The Last of Us, where you kind of have to play through it rather than just watch a cutscene. I think
yeah.
that's what they were going to do, and then for some reason, it ended up getting cut, maybe just for length or time or whatever.
That should be a DLC for sure
I
at
know, right?
some
They've
point.
already built it. Like, let us just wander around and put a few freaks in there or something, or use it for the challenges. They should have used it for one of the challenges.
You're right. Have you done a lot of the challenges?
No.
I don't either. It's just the story that gets me, you know?
I know. I've done a couple. I've done the bike ones. I find those easier. I know a lot of people have trouble with those, but I don't know. I like those. I'm ashamed to admit this. This is my confession for this episode. I'm too scared to do the Horde ones. The ones where it's just this endless wave of freakers. I'm just like, no, please God, that sounds terrifying. Please don't make me play that.
Well, not only are the visuals just frightening, but the music, the freak show
Mm.
music is, it
Mm-hmm.
gets your anxiety up, But
Yes.
I understand because, a game like Dying Light has a DLC where it's just endless hordes of the zombies coming at you. And that was never my thing because there is no end game there. You just keep
Yes.
going until
Until you die.
you die.
I mean,
You know,
I have this recurring nightmare. I've had it for years, and this is because I'm obsessed with zombie movies. I do have nightmares about zombie apocalypses, and they always just go on and on and on until I die. The dream always ends with me having to shoot myself in the head. And the
holy
funny
shit.
the funny thing is, I actually kind of like those dreams. I wish I had them more often because I get to like live through a zombie movie and whatnot. But it does always reach that point where there are just so many zombies, and I know I only have like a handful of bullets. And I'm like, well, I know how this is going to end, so might as well get it over with. Boom, and then I wake up.
That is so fucking metal. I love it.
Oh.
So you said that you didn't know if Sarah was going to be alive or not, huh?
Well, I mean, the game obviously, like, I'm invested in the story.
Did you have any doubt?
I mean, I didn't want to assume that she was. I figured narratively, you being a storyteller, you're not going to do all this work, laying all this groundwork, and then have it be like, oh, look, there's her grave, whatever, bye. But I also didn't, I didn't know when it was going to happen. I didn't know how it was going to happen. So I reached a point playing through the Lost Lake storyline where you start to realize from O'Brien that holy shit, she didn't die at that camp. She got moved to another camp, and then that one got took over by the militia, and maybe she's south of the mountain, and holy fuck, who knows a way over the pass? Iron Mike, maybe I can convince it. And I was just like, oh, here we go. And then when you get to Wizard Island, as soon as someone mentions the Wizard Island witch, I'm like, ding, like,
Yep.
like obviously that's going to be her.
I was really sure she was going to end up being alive because by the time you started to do a few of the, traveling up the hill to drop the flowers off, and he talks to the,
Right.
that I thought the story and the character was so strong and so well developed that I was like, there's no doubt that Deacon is going to become a mascot for Ben Studio and Sony, much like Mario is for Nintendo and Sonic is for Sega, right? There's no way they're going to have this character talk to a fucking rock for no reason. So,
Yeah.
that can't
you're
be in
right.
the mythos. So I was like, nah, she's got to be alive.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. I mean, now I think I was just trying to not spoil it for myself and to not make assumptions. I'm not one of those people that when I watch a movie, I'm thinking about the twist. I
Hmm.
like to not even know that there's going to be a twist in case I see it coming. I like something to kind of surprise me at its own pace. And I like to suspend any kind of sense of my knowledge of storytelling as much as I can and just let the thing tell the story to me. So I think with the game, I was just trying not to think too deeply about it and trying to just think like Deacon and trying to think like, I hope she's alive. There are enough clues telling me she might be alive. If I get there quick enough, maybe I can find her. But there's no guarantees because this world is fucking brutal.
Hmm.
Boozer not only gets his arm burned, but then gets it fucking cut off. He is now an amputee.
Right.
And, you know, and there's just people dying all over the place. You know, Lisa's story where she gets kidnapped and you know, Schizo's killing people and you're killing people, and you know, Tucker's got slaves, and it's just like, wow, this world is not kind to anyone. This is a
No.
world that is not a happy ending kind of place. And I maintain that the ending is not truly a happy ending. It feels in the moment like certain storylines, certain threads are concluded in a positive way, but they did not kill any of the they did not stop the hordes coming in per the plan with the dynamite.
Right. We
You
lost
know,
Iron Mike.
we lost Iron Mike. So the idea, he was the driving force behind rebuilding civilization. Even Ricky, who's the closest in him in terms of having an optimistic point of view, I don't know if her heart's in it. I don't know if she's got what it takes to lead. You know, and the Ricky and Addie storyline, like their relationship seems happy, but I don't know if that's going to last. Like there's enough clues that tell you that they're not compatible. You know, Deacon and Sarah obviously are reconnecting, but the whole plan, like you said, going north, they don't end up going north. They stay at Lost Lake.
I
You
know.
know, so
I want to watch the mini movie of them going north. That's what that's what I want to
yeah.
watch. I want to know where they were headed. I mean, I'm glad they stayed behind, but and I've always been attracted to games, movies, TV shows that were all about the journey, right? A journey to achieve a goal or to journey to, you know, find oneself, that kind of deal. And that's exactly what Days Gone is. And all the different characters serve different purposes. You know, Schizo served a purpose to show that loyalty to Iron Mike. You know, as hard ass as Deacon is, and up until that point, you only thought he was loyal to Boozer. When Schizo's trying to convince him, we should, you know, Mike should be put out. We should be in. He's like, no, man, I don't stab people in the back that way. And then you have Ricky, the voice of reason, right? Trying to, you know, soften him up a little bit too. So, and when there was that little come on of hers, I was like, man, if Sarah's not alive, yeah, if Sarah's not alive, at least he's got Ricky. You know, so
she's the full. But there's the whole issue with Addie. I mean, she tells Deacon, "It's cool. I'm in an open relationship." And then you see her with Addie later, and Addie's like, "Where the fuck have you been? Like, you've been out with
Addie's
Deke all
like,
night." And it's like, Addie's not in an open relationship.
Like, does she know that?
Yeah, something is wrong here. So the going north thing, I never understood why that was a good idea. Because north is going to be colder and harder to live in.
You're
and
right, yeah.
we find out in the game that the Freakers are better in the cold and the wet and the snow and the dark places. So surely the best place to go is fucking Arizona or Mexico or, you know, Ecuador. Somewhere where it's like really hot and sunny all the time, because all the freaks are coming north. Like, don't go with them.
Yeah, I mean, at least Corey was heading in the right direction, right? He was going to, what was it? Like, I don't know. He was going a bit south, like Colorado or some shit like that. But yeah, they wanted to go north and never explained why. Maybe it was hundreds of miles north. Maybe it was just a little bit north. But they were never very specific on it, because that idea was killed off once Boozer was not able to ride. Which is also like the question, like, why doesn't anybody use the cars? There's fucking cars everywhere. I've crashed into enough cars to know that there's a lot of cars there. Why have nobody fixed one up yet?
Yeah, I mean, they do have the sort of idea of, well, the roads are broken because they're being reclaimed by nature, and also because, you know, Copeland and people like that have literally blown up the bridges to try to stop the freakers coming up. If you think of them as arteries, you know, and like a way to move up and down and around the country, they're clogged. They're clogged up with cars. I mean, when you drive through the tunnels and you have to push the cars out of the way, every time I drive into a tunnel, I have to slow down, because you never know what you're going to hit in that first few seconds when your eyes have to adjust to the darkness. There are always cars there. There's no way you could drive a car through those tunnels.
Yeah, that's true. But shit, they found a way with that gigantic truck, right? That they
figured that shit out. I mean, really, why not just build a big truck that can push everything out the way?
Right.
Yeah.
No, I do like. Yeah, you're right. You traverse the whole map on the bike. That's a wonderful idea, and your guest Josh Bryant described it perfectly. It's kind of the mix of a cruiser and a scrambler, kind
Mm-hmm.
of dirt bike-ish too. Tall suspension, grippy tires, that kind of stuff. And we've never seen that in a video game before. So them leading the game with that, because you start the tutorial on the bike. That was a strong move. That was a good move by Ben Studio, because up until that point, we're just kind of used to driving cars around if we're not running around, right? So
Right.
I thought the motorcycle aspect of it was very well done. All the upgrades and stuff like that too makes a lot of fun. You can customize it, but I mean, let's face it, the only upgrade worth getting on that bike is a bigger gas tank, so you don't have to stop and fuel up as
And the
often.
nitro as
Yes, the
well.
nitro to try to outrun the runners, but
Every time I try, and it's like, wait, no, can't outrun
right.
them. Not even with the 10-second nitro.
No. So so as far as the camps, what's your, I'm gonna say Lost Lake is probably your favorite camp, right?
I mean, Lost Lake is the best camp,
And
but
I
I don't know
agree.
if it's. I mean, it's the one obviously that's the most chill. It's not run by a militia or a slaver or a conspiracy theorist,
Yeah.
but it does have schizo, which for most people is a negative. I don't mind him personally. I think he's interesting, but obviously he's gone by the end of the game. So Lost Lake is obviously the just the best place to be. But I actually like Diamond Lake. I mean, it would be a horrible place to live because it's basically just one muddy field surrounded by, the
Hmm.
fortress stuff. But I love the whole area, the way they cut down all the trees and it's all burned, and it just looks so fucking badass. When you
Yeah.
come down the mountain and it's like, holy shit, what the fuck has happened here? Because it's not a forest fire. They've
Right.
actually, because you see they've cut down the trees and then like either used the logs to build the fort, or they've just like burned everything, like all of the scrubland. They've purposefully done this, and I love it when you leave that area and it has the smoke hanging in the air, and then you leave the edge of the burn zone and go into like a regular neighborhood or something, and all of a sudden it's just like boom, just clicks like away from all of the burns and the smoke and everything, and it's just like normal street again, or normal
No,
for
you're
Days
right.
Gone.
Yeah, Diamond Lake is, I guess, the most intimidating visually, the most
Right.
intimidating one. So if you're a drifter driving through and you got to pee and you see over there, it's like, nah, we'll
I'll
we'll
keep going a little bit.
we'll skip to the next one.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, because all this shit was done on purpose. What they call it, like slash and burn or something like that, so they can. I think that's what they call that technique, where
Yeah,
they
or
can see people
scorched earth or something.
scorch. Yeah, so they can see hordes coming from miles away, or
Right.
marauders or something like that. But I enjoyed that part of the game. I mean, it served its purpose for the story, but I really, really just enjoyed hanging around Lost Lake. That was like
Yeah.
just the scenery, just driving around there. I even like going by the sawmill, as deadly
Mm-hmm.
as that is at first. I even love that, which is I think that's my favorite horde, by the way.
Oh yeah.
The
Yeah.
sawmill. That was absolutely bitching, the way they came out at you like that.
I have a soft spot for I think it's the lava cave horde. I may be remembering it slightly wrong. But it's in Belknap, and it's not a very big horde, but it's the one near all the like volcanic rock kind of area, and it's up on the hill, and there's like a little tourist shack that you always get ambushed at down at the bottom. And it's one of those things where there's a historical marker and you go inside and it's like caves that, back in when the world was still what it was, there would be like tours and stuff through. So it's like a little touristy spot.
Oh,
And there's a
does it have
horde in
like
there.
steps or something like that? Doesn't it have like steps or something or another?
Yeah. Oh no,
Yeah,
no,
okay.
that's the other one. No,
That's
this
the one
is
by the cemetery, I think. Yeah.
yeah, this is in Belknap, and I just really like it because the first time I played it, that horde scared the fucking shit out of me. I thought it was a huge horde. It's really not. It's probably maybe 75 freakers at most. But I thought it was this massive horde. I thought that they were like super scary, and I just did not know how to deal with it. And they just keep coming. Like I think I drove through the little entrance to the cave, and they all just poured out the side, and I was like, oh my god, it just blew my mind. And they chased me all the way down the hill, and I probably fucking died. But I have a soft spot for that because it was the first time I actually really was terrified by the hordes and wasn't able to run away. So they get kind of like bonus points for that.
The cave hordes are always really creepy because you'll sneak up on them and they won't be making a sound. You won't hear them breathing or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But then all of a sudden you sneak and you see them all just curled up
They're
into
all just sitting there.
Like, fuck all of this. I'm out, right? And then there's nothing worse than coming up on that, running back to your bike and realizing that the fucking thing tipped over. And you gotta pick it up first.
It's like, which motherfucker came by and did this?
Exactly.
Was it a wolf? Was it a deer? Was it a random freaker? Like, get over here. Get here. I'm gonna fucking punish you for this. Like, nobody tips my bike over.
Exactly. I'm like, oh shit. So, or it's like facing a tree or something.
Oh my god. I always make sure whenever I park my bike, it's always like on the road facing a direction. I can like, usually I'll park it so it's downhill as well. So you get like a little bit of, you get up to speed a little quicker so that you don't have to like go uphill. And if something's chasing you, it takes a little while to kind of get away from them. You've always got to be facing downhill.
It's definitely a game you need to have your exit strategy planned out
Constantly.
for sure. Yeah. And you can't put a dent in those hordes until you at least get to Wizard Island, because that's when you get the big super napalm kind of Molotovs,
the Molotov,
right?
yeah.
Oh yeah.
I want to go back real quick to, we were talking about the broken road and how it's called the broken road because you can't drive on it and it's like physically broken by the elements and by people blowing up the bridges. I have this little theory as to why it's another reason why it's called the broken road. So most of the people in the game, most of the people in the world live in the encampments. Those are sort of walled off areas, as safe as you can get them. You know, people are trying to rebuild civilization, trying to, you know, farm or somehow create a safe environment in which to live. And then you got people like Deacon and Boozer and some of the marauders that you run into in the ambush camps, where people are shunning this opportunity they have to live in a safer environment. They're actively saying, nah, I don't want to live behind fences that will protect me. I don't want to work with other people so that we can create food and you know, get back into farming and things like that. I don't want to do that. I want to live out in the shit because I am in some way damaged enough and broken enough that is my preferred environment. This dangerous world that constantly wants to kill you, that's where I want to be. And I just think that the idea of the roads that the drifters and the marauders, they travel on and that they live on, the roads are broken, but it's a road for broken people. And that's why it's called the broken road.
That's an interesting point. I never thought of it that way. It could also, they have the freedom to do what they want, and whatever happens to them, it was their call, not somebody else's, because they're not living under rules of somebody else, right? This is kind of like an opportunity now. It's like, basically martial law, right? No, there's no government, no nothing. So yeah, I can see with Deacon's personality and Boozer, especially with them being in the MC, there's like, fuck everything. Because I think he even says
no one's going to tell them what to do. Yeah,
exactly. Because doesn't he even he tells Ricky at some point, he's like, why do you still wear the the cut, and the why are you still flying colors and everything? Because it's a way to say fuck everything else, right? So yeah, I mean, think about it. I mean, the writers got really deep enough that we are talking about this right now.
Yeah, right.
I mean, what a world away we are from games that we grew up on that were so linear, not story driven. And if there was some type of story, it was maybe like a page of text like, thank you for saving me, Mario, but the princess is in another castle. Like, that's it, right?
Yeah.
So,
or like Donkey Kong, I think ends with like you rescue her and then she gets kidnapped again.
It's like, fuck, that was it? Yeah, I was like, damn.
It's like, now you go play the game again. Oh no, I'm thinking of what is is it Ninja Gaiden or is it Kung Fu? It's one of those where you literally rescue the girl and then she gets kidnapped again, and then you have to play the whole game over, but everything is now slightly faster. So all the
No,
enemies move slightly faster and it's just
I
harder to
don't
play.
I don't know, but if anyone is ever able to beat Ninja Gaiden, that is a superhuman feat that I would love to see, because that was a fucking that and the Mega Man were the most brutal games on NES. But yeah, I mean, think about it. Back in the 80s, 90s, you would beat a game for bragging rights, or because you're
Hmm.
kind of curious on what happens at the end, and there wasn't much in between the beginning and the end. But when you get games that came along like The Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, Tomb Raider, um, the 360 started releasing games that were more story driven, and like that's what really hooked me in, because now you
Resident
weren't
Evil, Silent
Resident
Hill,
Evil, Castlevania,
right?
Symphony of the Night, things like that. That there was kind of you kept going because you wanted to see what happened next, not necessarily a variation of the same theme that happened the last level that you defeated, right?
Hmm.
Shit just gets harder and stuff like that. But so that's kind of so we went from playing games to just kind of doing like I don't know, kill some time. The game mechanics are satisfying, or haha, I beat your ass, whatever. But now it's like you're watching it or you're playing it because you want to see what happens to these characters that were so well written. And Jesus, man, I don't know. I could talk about it all day, which is why I'm here and why I have a podcast doing it.
Yeah, yeah. I sort of think of those games. The difference is there are games that you win and there are games you experience.
Right,
And for me,
exactly.
like you say, like the sort of Ninja Gaiden, Kung Fu, Mario, Donkey Kong, whatever, you're just winning at those. Can you win at this? Load Runner, like, can you beat the game? Can you figure out the puzzle? And that's a lot of fun. But Days Gone and all the other games you mentioned, the story-driven games, I think of them as being games that you experience the story and you experience the narrative and the themes and the characters and the question that is posed. It's not in Mario, will you save the princess? Are you good enough to go save Princess Peach?
Right.
It's, will Deacon find Sarah? Where will the story go? And it's not really about, are you good enough? Because honestly, all it takes with a lot of these kinds of video games is the time. There's never really a point where it gets too hard to play. Whereas you give me Super Mario Brothers, I can't fucking get past the first 3 levels. Like, I don't have the patience to learn how to time those jumps and where everything is and all of that. Like, that's just repetitiveness
It
of
is repetitive. Yeah.
learning the system and learning, like, jump, jump, run, kill this thing, jump, fire a thing. It's like whatever the pattern is. Days Gone doesn't have a pattern because you can play it any number of different ways.
Yeah.
It kind of, to a certain degree, obviously, it still comes down to skill. It's still a video game. You still have to learn how to do it. But essentially, you could put in enough time that even, non-gamers can still experience the story.
I mean, and look at how many good story-driven games now. When you start a new game, the different levels of difficulty they can, it's like
Hmm.
easy for those who want to experience just the story, right? And then super hard for those that want the real challenge. So they
Right.
know their game is strong in the story. So if you just want to play through it just because you love the story, you can do that.
Yeah. So I wanted to go back to, at the beginning, I asked you how many times you played, and you said, yeah, at least 5. I have a follow-up question.
Okay.
How did you stop playing and go on to other games? Because obviously you play other games for your podcast, and you've probably played other games since playing Days Gone. I am completely hooked on Days Gone, and I do not want to play anything else. How did you quit Days Gone?
Oh,
Or did you?
no, I didn't. I played I played it through 2 to 3 times back to back, and then, 4th, 5th time, I kinda went back to it again after, kinda, putting some other games in there in between. I don't know if I'm ashamed to say this, but I'm not, but I like to play games. It's very hard for me to pick up a new game because especially if I know it's a gigantic game, it's a huge commitment, right? And I work, I'm married, I have a little guy here I got to take care of, so I need to make sure it's I'm the kind of guy that when I go to a restaurant, I just order the same meal because I know what to expect, right? So I'll go back and play another game that I've played, like The Last of Us,
Mhm.
or Horizon Zero Dawn because I know what to expect. So I just kind of hop back and forth between the games that I know are really good, even though I've played a whole bunch of them. But now that I'm doing the podcast, I actually have to find time to play other games because I'm going to start running out of shit to talk about, right? I'm going to start running out of games, and I'm not going to
Yeah.
do a whole episode on like a point and click, that I played back in the 90s. So I gotta freshen it up, but it, the answer is I don't know. I mean, I still keep going back to it, so it's not something I can. Let's just put it this way: it's not a game I'll ever delete to make
Mm.
room for anything else on my hard drive. Other shit's got to make room for it because it will
Fuck yeah.
always, yeah, it will always be there.
Fuck yeah. What is your favorite part of the game? Whether it's like the gameplay elements or characters or weapons or what's your favorite thing?
Um, it's the relationship between Deacon and Boozer. I mean, think about it, you get that storyline or the what's it called? He's my brother, right? You have
Mhm.
that particular storyline where you got to take care of him, things like that. I love that. Um, I don't know why. I've always just been attracted to that particular type of game where one character's kind of taking care of another, and that camaraderie between two people. I don't know. That's just my thing. It's not for everybody, but that's what I like. I like the character development between those two guys, and the fact that Boozer survives. A spoiler alert: Boozer
Don't
lives.
worry, I've
Yeah,
spoiled everything
yeah.
on this
Um,
podcast. I feel bad for people who found this podcast having not finished the game because I mean, there's a spoiler warning at the beginning, but like
mhm.
I spoil everything.
Yeah, and no shame because that's what the podcast is about. Um, but yeah, I'm so glad that Boozer ended up living at the end because as important as Sarah is to him and everybody else and Ricky and Addie and everybody, it's the relationship between those two that really just I don't
Yeah.
know, it stuck with me. That's what I love to experience.
Yeah. I mean, Boozer nearly dies 3 times in the game. You know, he nearly dies when he has blood poisoning
Right?
and has to have his arm amputated. He nearly dies when he goes out drunk into the
Yeah.
shit, like wandering around, and it's like there's a fucking horde right there that he hasn't even really seen. And then he's like, "Well, okay, let's fucking do it. Let's let the horde take me out." And then of course he nearly dies at the end with the truck explosion. Um
And the one where he goes out drunk, that's another beautiful part in the game between those
mhm,
two because here's Deacon, he's risking his life to go get Boozer. It's starting to get dark, right? Nobody knows where he is, and he's running
mhm.
into trouble, right? I think you run into some other freakers or I don't know,
You
marauders.
follow him, and I think that's where
Go from house
you
to house.
you go from house to house, but I think that's where the screamer is introduced. You follow him down
Yes,
to a farmhouse, and then the screamer, the first screamer you find, is there. So it's like shit. Boozer could have got taken out by this bitch. And then
right?
it's like, oh no, wait, he's up on the hill. He's over there in a different house. And then, oh wait, he's not there. He's actually wandered down the road and is like about to wander in drunkenly into a horde.
And that part is awesome to me. It's one of the most important parts in the game for me because here's Deacon. He believes Sarah's alive. There's a chance, but in that moment, it doesn't matter. He says, if this is the way it's going to go out, then it's going to go down. Then let's do it. I'm going to stay right here with you.
Yeah.
And he would have.
Hmm.
And that's a beautiful moment to me. That's what develops a character into somebody that you sympathize with rather
Yeah.
than somebody that you really don't care about.
Right.
And since we're on Boozer, and I remember you mentioned this in one of your episodes where this is definitely make believe because in a world like this, everybody would be scrawny, right? So you also
Right.
call bullshit on Boozer's arms because
Yes.
he looks like he eats nothing but protein, and he would
This
literally,
is a guy who has a protein shake at every meal, like for
yeah.
real.
So I totally call bullshit on that one. So, but that's his character. That's what the game requires, and I love it. He's kind of like the enforcer. He's kind of like the big muscular kind of side. Like Deacon can take care of himself, but he knows he got Boozer getting his back,
Boozer in your corner, yeah.
all 350 pounds of his ass. Yeah, Jesus.
I mean, that's the thing that I didn't connect to Boozer straight away because I think it's a dude thing. I think it's like a guy thing. Like guys get that sort of bro code, that connection, that camaraderie, that brotherhood. It went a little bit over my head to begin with. But having replayed it, I now see it and I'm like, oh my God, this is one of the best relationships in the game.
They did a good balance with it, because you're right. There's a very brotastic kind of,
And
very
his like
manly.
pride, like, no, I'm fine, my arm's fine, I don't need the salve, like, I'll be good, I just need a couple days.
Yeah, calls him a pussy, right?
Yes.
But then calls him a pussy for doing that. But then later on, he's like, "Your girl's alive. Go find her."
Hmm.
So there's a good balance between the two, because he could have just stayed a complete dick, but I mean, he wasn't. So that's why it
Yeah.
was very well developed, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I don't think he was being a dick. I think he was literally dying of blood poisoning,
Uh,
and couldn't think straight, and was probably terrified, and could not admit that. That's the failing, is his pride, the sort of toxic masculinity, perhaps, where it's like he can't admit, brother, I'm in pain, and I'm worried, and I think something's seriously fucking wrong with me, and I'm like hearing shit outside that I thought was people trying to sneak in, but I think maybe I'm losing my mind. Like, he can't say that. It's like the scene in the tunnel when Deacon is losing his shit, that first freaker nest you take out, and Deacon
oh
like
yeah,
he has Boozer's shotgun, he's walking point down the tunnel, and he fucking loses it in a fit of rage where he's just like looking for trouble. He just wants something to burn, something to take his rage out on. And Boozer can't say, hey brother, you need to chill a bit. Like, you're scaring me. Like, you're going too far. He can't say that. What he says is, you're gonna break my shotgun.
right.
Like, don't break my weapon. Like, do what you gotta do, but just don't break my shotgun. And we know that the subtext is, hey brother, you need to chill out. Like, you're going too far, you're being reckless, you're gonna get someone hurt. And of course, he ends up getting Boozer hurt. That's who he gets hurt. But in that moment, Boozer is trying to protect Deke from himself, but he can't say that because they have this weird, like, the facade, the pride, the whatever it is. Like, you can't just say, hey, I'm worried about you. You've got to say, don't break my shotgun.
Yeah, and there is, like, you're right. That bromance is strong, and when he says, when he brings back the, what is it, the lavender stuff, right,
Mm-hmm.
for him, and he's like, pussy, I don't need that. And I was like, you son of a bitch! I not only had to go out in the shit to get this, but I just had to play through 20 minutes of following Sarah around in a flashback where I
Those
walked
fucking
so
flashbacks.
slowly. I walked so
Yes.
slowly from one side of this river or lake to the other. You better take this fucking thing right now. Because
And that's another dropped storyline. Like, he never uses it.
you're
You
right.
make the
No,
salve and then he never fucking uses it.
no. The only thing you found out is, like, I know Deacon can walk very slowly with Sarah. I was like, golly,
My
you know how many times
God.
I found myself hitting trying to run, like
Sprint,
sprint, like,
sprint.
let's find this shit.
Go.
Let's go. Yeah.
The walk up to the waterfall is the one that kills me, where you go past the weed
Holy
farm, and it's
shit.
like, it's a super nice romantic scene. Like, I love kind of what happens there. It's a little bit funny and it's super cute. But dear God, let me fucking run. Sarah can
Oh
keep
my
up.
god.
My God, do we have to walk this slow? And then she stops and looks at the weed. I'm like, yeah, bitch, it's marijuana. Come on, moved along,
Like,
moved
let's
along,
go.
moved along.
Let's go. Let's go. We got shit to kill. Let's
Yeah.
go.
Oh dear.
I think that's something on a subreddit that they complain about. A lot of people complain.
Yeah, it's a recurring theme.
There's somebody, and now if they're listening to this, there's somebody that said recently on the subreddit, he's like, the entire time I'm following Sarah, I tried repeatedly to kill myself or something,
Yes.
and it wasn't possible. Did you see that?
I did. I liked that comment. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. All right, so we don't have a Days Gone 2.
No.
Are you hopeful? Do you think that one day we will have a Days Gone 2? What's your take on that?
There is no way they're not going to develop a Days Gone 2 for this. And whether it takes, a decade to do, practically, like they did with The Last of Us, because they want to get it right,
Mm-hmm.
fine. I'd rather wait a long time and get another masterpiece. But there's no way that a game that strong, that popular, and that well written is gonna end like this, because it's so open ended. I mean,
Yeah.
it can go on anyway. A lot of people survive. Everybody kind of bro hugs, and everybody comes to terms with what reality is. And Deacon's less of a jackass, by the end. He's a little softy now.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no way they're not going to do it. There's no
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, I think the same thing. I think it'll be like The Last of Us, where they're like, no, we're not doing a sequel, we're not doing a sequel, we're not doing a sequel. Okay, we're doing a sequel.
Sequel, yep.
Sequel, there it is, we're doing it. All right, so a few things I need to run through before we wrap up.
Okay.
As I mentioned at the top, I've teamed up with Spornicus Rex for a collaborative live stream playthrough of Days Gone, and we're having an absolute blast with it. You can watch live on the Spornicus Rex YouTube channel every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific, and if you can't tune in live, the streams are still available to watch afterwards. You can support the Days Gone podcast by leaving a review or giving us a thumbs up. That really helps the algorithm do its thing, so more people can find the show. And if you have friends who play Days Gone, let them know about the podcast and maybe give us a share on social media. You can also show your support by heading over to buymeacoffee.com/daysgonepod, where if you're feeling generous, you can throw a little money in the tip jar, and that really helps me with the overhead costs of running the show. All right, Daniel, please remind us where we can find your podcast.
Oh my God, everywhere. Apple Podcast, Google, Stitcher, just search for Video Games and Coffee. You can go to videogamesandcoffee.com. I have all the links there. You can find me and listen to me.
And you're on Instagram?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, Video Games and Coffee podcast on Instagram.
Cool. And how often do you drop episodes? Do you have like a specific day of the week that they're on?
I've just done my 6th one, so I'm still relatively kind of getting a schedule going, right? With being a dad and everything. So I'm trying to do one a week. One half, the back half of the week. But
life sometimes gets in the way.
Unexpectedly.
I did the same thing with this one. I had a very loose schedule. I would try to get them out once a week. Sometimes I do like 2 a week, and then other weeks it was like not happening. But usually, yeah, around like the sort of episode 6, 7, 8, I was like, okay, I need to start doing this on a schedule. And it's actually it's really awesome. Like it's really helped kind of have that routine in my week. I really like it. The only problem is I went through this little phase where I was recording so many episodes that I had like a month's worth of podcasts to drop, and I'd forget that I hadn't released them yet. And I'd want to talk to people about them. It's like, no one's heard this one yet. This doesn't come out for another 2 weeks. So now I'm making an effort to actually record one a week and release one a week. It's tough. It's tough when you got real world stuff going on.
Sticking to a schedule, it helps you hold yourself accountable. So you expect it, right?
Yeah.
First part of the week for me is writing, and then the last half is recording and editing. So at least I can expect to do that and kind of fit everything else into that schedule.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and talking Days Gone with me. This was really fun.
Thank you very much for having me.
You can email me your thoughts, comments, opinions, and counter-arguments at daysgonepod@gmail.com. You can also find me moderating the Days Gone subreddit. Thanks for listening. Weaver out.